Okay, let's get right into it. We're talking about the aloo tikki. You know, that humble, crispy potato patty you can find on pretty much any street corner in India. But today, we're not just looking at it as food. We're going to see how this one simple snack becomes the star of two completely different stories, one of incredible triumph and another of just profound heartbreak.
And boom, right out of the gate, we get this line from one of the stories. Baat sirf khane ki nahi hai, baat izzat ki hai. It translates to, it's not about food, it's about honor. And that single quote, it just sets the stage perfectly, doesn't it? It tells us that for an entire community, a simple potato dish is about to carry the weight of its reputation, its pride, its very identity.
And that really brings us to the big question we're tackling here. How can the exact same food item, an aloo tikki, represent something so public and celebratory in one story and something so deeply personal and tragic in another? Well, that's the journey we're about to take, looking at two really powerful animated moral stories.
All right, so first up, let's really unpack the hidden meaning behind this super popular street food. We're going to see how two different stories use the aloo tikki to tell a much, much bigger tale about modern India, its values, and, its anxieties.
So our first story takes us to the village of Mohanpur. And let me tell you, the whole community is in a bit of a panic. There's a wedding coming up, which should be a joyous occasion, right? But it's quickly turning into this high-stakes test of the entire village's honor.
So here's the deal. A daughter of the village is getting married, which is amazing. But the groom's very important. VIP relatives from the big city have sent a message, and they have one specific, totally non-negotiable demand. Aloo tikki that tastes like it came from a 5-star hotel. Suddenly, the whole village's izzat, their honor, is on the line. If they fail this, it's a huge embarrassment.
And this slide, wow, it just lays out the culture clash perfectly. On one hand, you have the village way, a simple, authentic tikki, fried on a griddle, served humbly on a leaf plate. But the city folks? They're demanding the whole shebang. Tikkis stuffed with paneer or peas, a bunch of different chutneys, thick creamy yogurt, all kinds of fancy toppings. It is a classic showdown between tradition and modernity. So, what do? How do they solve this? Well, they decide to fight fire with fire. They know their local cook just can't pull this off, so they make a really smart move. They hire Lalan Ustad, a legendary street food caterer from a town nearby who's famous for his modern, city-style cooking. And Lalan Ustad, he doesn't just show up, he shows up with this incredible swagger. He makes this bold promise to the worried village elders. He says, "I will make such a tikki that your relatives will forget the wedding and only talk about the tikki." I mean, talk about confidence. The culinary showdown is officially on. And oh, it is an absolute triumph. The city guests arrive, looking down their noses, totally skeptical. But then, they're completely blown away. They don't just find one type of tikki, they find all these varieties like Shahi Paneer Tikki and Matar Masala Tikki. People start whispering that this is even better than the famous stuff in Delhi. Before you know it, the main dinner is totally ignored and everyone is lining up for seconds and thirds. The village's honor isn't just saved, it soars.
It's a perfect, happy ending, a story of community pride. But that's just one story. And the tikki, it turns out, can tell a very, very different one. A much quieter and much more devastating one.
So, let's just flip that whole idea on its head. What happens when the same dish isn't for a big crowd of VIPs, but is a private, daily ritual of hope made for just one person, a person who never comes home? All right, let's move on to our second story. And here, I want you to meet Janki Amma. She's an elderly woman known in her village as the Desi Ghee Tikki Wali Amma, which kind of means the mother who sells tikkis made with clarified butter. And her whole life, her entire reason for being, revolves around this small tikki stall she started years and years ago for her son. See, in this story, the tikki isn't about variety or impressing anyone. It's just a simple potato patty, fried in that desi ghee. And there's only one reason she makes it. It was her son Mohit's absolute favorite food. Her daily ritual is just heartbreaking. For 10 years, every single day, the very first plate of tikki she makes is set aside just for him in the quiet, desperate hope that today might be the day he finally comes back. And this timeline, man, it just reveals the sheer depth of her sacrifice. A decade ago, her son left for college, and she started this very stall to pay for his education. But as the years went by, he got a good job in the city and just forgot about her. Then one day, a phone call, and it's a surge of joy. He's finally coming home to get married. She prepares, her heart is just full of hope, but on the day he's supposed to arrive, he never shows up.
And one of the villagers just nails it with this profound proverb, watching Jankiyama's unwavering devotion. Poot ka poot ban jaye par mata ko mata nahi hoti, which means a son may become a bad son, but a mother never becomes a bad mother. It just perfectly captures this theme of unconditional, totally one-sided love that defines her whole story.
And the story, it ends in utter tragedy. As the storm rolls in, Jankiyama just sits at her stall, waiting. And she passes away quietly, still clutching that one special plate of tikki she had made for the son who abandoned her. It's just a devastatingly lonely image and such a stark contrast to the cheering crowds from our first story.
Okay, so we have these two incredibly powerful stories, two totally different endings, both centered on the exact same food. One is a symbol of public victory, the other of private loss. Let's break down what this is really telling us.
This table, right here, this really breaks it all down. The wedding tikki was all about public honor, that izzat, made for a crowd of VIPs, and it resulted in a huge social triumph. It was like a bridge, helping a traditional village prove its worth in a modern world. But the mother's tikki, that was a symbol of private maternal love, or mamta, made for an audience of one who was never even there. The outcome was personal tragedy, and it symbolized a link to a past and a bond that had been broken.
So when you put it all together, you see these stories are tapping into some really big cultural tensions in modern India. You've got the immense pressure of community honor versus just raw personal feelings. You see a story about the sacred, unbreakable bond of a mother, even when she's been neglected. And of course, both stories hammer home that persistent divide between the city and the village and that constant tug of war between tradition and modernity.
So at the end of the day, what's the big takeaway from all this? It goes so far beyond just potatoes and spices. It's really about the stories we tell ourselves to make sense of our world.
What these stories do so beautifully is show us how the most ordinary, everyday objects, like an aloo tikki, can be transformed into these huge, powerful symbols. They can carry the weight of our greatest hopes for social acceptance and our deepest anxieties about being forgotten, about family bonds breaking down. They really do act as a cultural mirror.
And that really leaves us with one last question to think about. These stories found this epic meaning in a simple street food. So what about in our own lives? What profound stories of love and honor and conflict and connection are hiding in the simple things we see and probably overlook every single day?